Traders, how are you? With Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Super powerful earthquake in Morocco left a lot of people injured and dead, unfortunately. We have a surge in the amount of deaths in children in the UK. I wonder what that could be from. And we also have another hack in crypto. And there was another piece of news that I wanted to share here in the beginning, but I forgot. So let's go ahead and get started. All of the markets were down in the United States, North America being North America and Canada, Mexico, even though it's part of North America, in the US, I consider that to be Latin America. Overall, we had a situation where there was good economic news. And because of the good economic news, there may be a situation where they're going to keep interest rates higher than normal or actually keep raising rates. Now, that's a very bad thing for you and I due to the fact that the majority of the economy in the United States and most industrialized nations, which is basically everybody except Africa and a few countries in Asia, for example, the majority of the economy is always consumer spending. In the case of the United States, it's almost 70% consumer spending. So what happens? If the interest rates go up, that means that everything gets more expensive. Your cost to buy a car, your cost to buy a house. A house 3 years ago with an interest of 3%, for example, is cheaper than a less expensive home with a higher interest rate now, which is 7%. So everything goes up, your credit card bills, your new car loans. And so since we live in this consumer society and everybody goes out and buys stuff, the economy doesn't move as well. And add on to that the situation where inflation is only 3%, because we all know going to the grocery store that everything has gone up literally 30, 40, 50%. That means that the economy is not going to do that well in the very near term. Markets, like I mentioned, in the United States, mostly negative. Canada was also negative as well. Another big piece of news, you guys know I've been in the trading industry for a while. There was a funding company for Forex called My Forex Funds that actually collapsed. I don't know if you guys have ever been interested in trading or not, but if you are interested in trading, I would recommend you start with a more regulated market like stocks or futures. The reason why is because this company was actually caught double dipping, meaning that in Forex, there's no centralized exchange. So if I'm going to buy and sell an asset, if I'm in the US, I can do that in Canada or Russia or Brazil or Australia or Cyprus, where a lot of these companies are actually registered, and nobody knows who's buying what because there's no centralized place where that's done. Well, this company, what they were doing is that they were taking the other side of people's orders. So they were literally manipulating, call it the liquidity feed, because they were the ones controlling it in order to make the clients continue to lose money so they could get paid more and have people pay them more for the test. This can't happen in a market like futures or stocks, due to the fact that there's a centralized exchange and the liquidity provider is always the exchange. It's much more regulated. Just wanted to bump that in there because they closed down the site. There's a big lawsuit now, so I wanted to share that with you. Markets in Europe, mostly lower. Istanbul was one of the positive ones, over 3%. Latin America was mostly lower. Brazil, being the biggest economy in all of Latin America, went down by over 2%. Argentina went down by over 19%. Africa and the Middle East, mostly mixed. Egypt was the most positive there. And then in the far, far east, Asia and Australia, mostly lower, with the Sensex in India, 1.85% positive. Not a lot of news in the crypto space other than the fact that the world's largest crypto casino, Stake.com, was reportedly hacked for $41.3 million. So the hacks in crypto continue. Make sure that if you want to protect yourself, that you have your coins on a hard exchange, right? Don't keep them on exchange like Binance. Keep them in your wallet, your hard wallet. Bitcoin has the same kind of behavior this week that has been happening over the last, I would say, few months to maybe a year, where it just keeps consolidating, going up a little bit, going down a little bit, and then all of a sudden it'll explode in one direction. This week is more of the same. It only went up by 0.46%, just a touch under 26,000 as of Friday night. Commodities Monday Oil prices hit a 7-month high. Expectations of a tightening supply because Saudi Arabia, which is one of the major producers in the world, is doing a voluntary cut of 1 million barrels per day, meaning that they're removing production for the market. So obviously it gets a little bit more expensive. There's also speculations about what happens with the situation with the rate hike, the interest rates that I mentioned to you just a moment ago. And obviously that has a big impact due to the fact that crude and most other commodities are priced in US dollars for now. Wednesday, oil hit a 10-month high. The U.S. production continues to lag. Part of the reason why we have a situation in the United States where our gas has gone up by so much is due to the fact that the Biden administration has been throttling or limiting the production of the oil and gas in the United States. Before the pandemic, the output in the US was 13.1 million barrels per day. Now it's at 12.8. And a lot of analysts are saying that we should be at 15 million barrels per day. If we were producing more, right, then what would happen? Well, our prices would be back down to $1, $2 per gallon of gas. And what does that mean? Everything in the United States is transported by the big wheelers, the semis. So if gas goes down, your transport costs go down, everything goes down in costs. US crude for the week went up 2.29% to 87.51. Brent went up to 2.37% to 90.65. BRICS member India, BRICS, remember, is the economic kind of group of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Even now, there's a lot more groups that are joining. For the first time, India paid for their oil in rupees instead of dollars. And as I mentioned to you guys before, remember that the majority of the dollars in the United States are actually, the majority of dollars that were created are outside of the US. So the more that the BRICS are moving to underscore and abandon the US dollar, the more those dollars are going to come back home. The more that those dollars come back home, it's a simple supply demand, right? Why are Rolls Royces so expensive? Because there's not a lot of supply, right? I don't know what's a good example is. Let me think about this for a second. But what's a common thing? Honda Civics or Toyota Corollas. Good quality, but they're not as expensive because there's a lot of them, right? So supply and demand. So if there is a decreasing amount of demand, but an increasing amount of supply, that means that the value of the dollar is going to go down, which means that inflation is going to go up. And I think all of a sudden we're going to get hit with, can you imagine, for example, if your inflation rate is 50%, 100% a year? So, and this is happening in Argentina, even in Venezuela recently as well. You go to buy a loaf of bread. I don't know what a loaf of bread in the US costs, but let's say it's $1. I know it's a lot more, but it's $1. You go and 1 month it's $1, then the next month is $1.10, then the next month is $1.22. Can you imagine the implication of that? Meanwhile, your wages aren't going up by 50% to 100%, so keep that in mind. First of the world's most popular types of rough diamonds, the company is in a free fall due to the fact that there's a situation that now people are starting to buy lab-grown diamonds instead of the natural ones. Probably better for the environment and also third world countries because they're grown in a lab and not with children going out and walking into mines and all the horrible human abuses that we have in the world. They sold $14.6 billion worth of these lab grown diamonds, 38% year over year. And this is due to the fact that since people prefer now to have experiences and travel after the pandemic, they want to spend a lot less on diamonds. So they're going with the lab grown ones rather than the real ones, or not even buying them at all. India, which is the number 2 supplier after Brazil, is expected to restrict their sugar exports. Remember that there was a situation where India started to restrict their rice exports, which is 40% of all of the rice in the world, the largest exporter by far. And India now being the number 2 producer of sugar and exporter of sugar, now they're going to be expected to limit the amount of sugar that they export. So now there's a sugar trader, very prominent, that says that we're as close to running out of sugar as it can be as the global stockpiles continue to go down. And with the strength of the dollar, gold is down over 1% to $19.70. Silver went down by over 5% to $23.01. Really good deals right now on silver. I'm not affiliated with this company, and this is for educational purposes only, but SD Bullion has a great deal on 10-ounce bars and 100-ounce bars if you're interested. Financial and banking news, the U.S. mortgage interest rates are pulling back hard last week, but that's not affecting or not increasing the amount of people that are actually putting in applications. The volume fell 2.9% last week in the applications for mortgages, and it's at a 27-year low because people just can't afford to buy new homes anymore. Meanwhile, JP Morgan Chase, which is the largest bank in the United States, get ready, they're spending $1 billion to buy homes this year. So they're going to become a mega landlord. But remember, you're going to own nothing and be happy. That's what Conspiracy Marcello says. We're going to get some other conspiracies about the pandemic and the thing in your arm here in a second. The USD, the dollar stabilized midweek. It's near a 6-month high. This is due to the overall concern about the economy and the economic news around the world. If people are fearful, they go to what they think is secure. And what they think is secure is still the dollar. So the dollar goes up due to that fact. Friday's jobs report was disastrous for U.S. citizens. 1.2 million native-born workers lost their jobs, but foreign-born workers, it would replace with 668 foreign-born workers in the workforce. In political news, I'll put it as political because it's a little conspiratorial. UK children death rates skyrocket 16% more than the average deaths expected in 2022, projected to be 22% more than anticipated in 2023. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment analytically. 2020 was the pandemic year. Why didn't deaths go up then? 2021, the end of the pandemic year, essentially, right? Deaths didn't go up then either. Why is it that they went up in 2002, 2023? And the CDC is ending the website where you report the effects after the thing in your arm that basically says, thank you for your participation now. And now if we put on our conspiracy theory hats, why would a federal government agency be taking down the system that we report adverse effects of something? Could it be that possibly they're starting to have a lot more effects and they don't want people to find out what's going on? And October 4th, a nationwide test of the emergency alert system is planned for the United States. They're going to try to ensure that everything is working correctly in event of a big natural disaster or an attack, just like they shut off the sirens in Maui because that worked so well. And you remember about 3 or 4 months ago when I reported to you guys that the U.S. senators and U.S. congressmen and women were being given satellite phones? Do you guys remember that? So putting 2 and 2 together, right? Something's going to happen. I don't know what, but something is on the horizon. Economic news. Germany is known in 1998. They had quite a bit of economic problems and a stigma kind of caught them being the largest economy in Europe, 4th largest economy in the world, that they were the sick man of Europe. That moniker is starting to come back again now that the manufacturing output is starting to stutter with the high energy prices. Seems like they're headed for a recession in 2023. And so we have that situation with the 4th largest economy in the world. China's service sector is starting to record its slowest expansion in December 2022, meaning that now the 2nd largest economy in the world isn't expanding, at least their service sector, as fast as before. So you see how we're starting to have some negative news with some of the largest economies in the world, right? Singapore is expected to grow less than expected at only 1% compared to 1.4% before. And Australia's GDP, a bright spot, they're expected to grow more than what they were expected at over 2%. India's consumer market now is said to become the 3rd largest in the world by 2027, behind the US and China. Right now, they're number 5. And as the Indian economy continues to grow quite strongly, the lower middle class and lower class moves to the upper class and the middle class, and obviously they have a little bit more money to spend. Corporate news, I mentioned to you guys about JP Morgan. Shares of Airbnb also went up by over 7% on the announcement that they're going to join the S&P 500. The index is used by a lot of people, pensions and things, to be able to buy indexes off of. So now a lot of people are going to want to buy Airbnb since they made it on the index, which is going to add a lot more buying pressure. BMW and Mercedes are making a major new push with new electric vehicles to try to combat the major Chinese powerhouses and also Tesla, Mercedes is introducing a new concept called CLA, where they have a range of about 466 miles or 750 kilometers. And BMW is also presenting new concepts in addition to their EV sales expected to double by the end of 2023. Warren Buffett, age 93, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, the stock reached a record high, all-time high on Tuesday of just under $367 and then pulled back. The overall broader market pulled back as well, but he always seems to do well. Best investor in the world, in history, I should say. Putin said that he's not going to revive the UN and Turkey brokered grain deal, where he's going to allow the ships to come out of Ukraine. Remember that Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe, being one of the powerhouses in food production, especially for a lot of places in the Middle East, Africa, and also Europe. There's a G20 meeting. Turkey was hoping to report that they're going to be able to make a deal, but Russia says that not until they remove the obstacles to be able to export their own agriculture and fertilizer will they not make a deal. Technology, Moderna, they're starting to update their things in your arm, plans to release the data on how their injection fares with the new variant because the old information was so accurate, right? And in international events, the Ukrainian officials are slamming Elon Musk for ordering engineers to shut off Starlink satellite access in Crimea when the war started. It looks like Elon Musk is getting a little bit of attack from the Matrix now that he's doing things that they don't want him to do. Unfortunately, he has a lot of money and it'll be hard to take him down, but the government is the government. And a powerful 7.2 earthquake killed over 800 people and injured hundreds more. There were buildings that were collapsed. Remember at the end of 2020, I mentioned to you guys the next 10 years are going to be very difficult. Economic problems, social problems, natural disasters are on the rise as well. So enjoy that dessert when you eat dinner, because soon you might not be able to have it anymore. And an interesting fact this week, according to the EU's Copernicus satellite, the climate change service, they're reporting that the summer was the hottest on record by a huge margin this year. Luckily, what they don't tell you is the records only began since 1940. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. And remember, the preppers are right.